Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Starting Pixel podcast. Today, we are coming from the Dean Street podcast studio on Dean Street in Soho, in London. As you probably know, the Starting Pixel podcast is all about talking to people who are working virtual production and trying to demystify it as well. So, for people who don't work in virtual production, because it's really, really key that people start to understand it and really get to grips with it. Just a bit of a promotion. Soon is IBC coming up, and for Starting Pixel and IBC are working together, we have our own virtual production seminar on Friday at about 4 p.m. In the Diamond Lounge, I think it is, and then Starting Pixel Live, which is on the 15th of October. And if you'd like to have tickets for that, that would be awesome. On with the show, we're going to meet Sam Kemp. Sam, hi.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, good, good. So we know each other through, I think, the Starting Pixel network initially.
Yeah. Lots of chat in the WhatsApp group.
Also that, yeah, way above my head most of the time, for sure. And you're talking about technical things as
All
well.
of us nerds.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the Starting Pixel podcast. The Starting Pixel podcast is all about bringing new tech that's coming into sort of the film industries, TV industries, content production, podcasting, everything, and sort of just explaining to some of the cool people who are involved in it. And today we've got Sam from Garden Studios. Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. So what we normally do is start off by asking our guests, how on earth did you get from leaving school kind of thing and then ended up doing the job you do?
Yeah, sure. Originally I was going to go into engineering and then took a gap year and started dabbling in film and fell in love with it.
All right.
And then sort of went, right, screw the engineering side, just going to jump into film. Started a production company with some friends. That's still running. It's called Window Zebra. And then from that, sort of was doing bits and pieces, did BTS on a VP job, and then sort of fell into the whole VP world through that.
Oh, cool. And what sort of time scale is this? So when did you? So you were about to go to university.
Yeah.
So your parents were so proud of you
Yeah.
because you got this course. You'd landed the course engineering at Loughborough or at Bristol or some other really. And you thought, actually, no, this is not for me.
Yeah. Was always going to take a gap year, and then sort of started working and went, oh, actually, this is all right money, and
Right.
I'm quite
Got you.
enjoying it. I'm being creative, lots of problem solving. That's what I really love.
Got you.
And then just sort of spiraled from there.
I did exactly the same thing. So how long ago was that?
So that was, so I'm 25 now. So that was 19.
19.
So not that long ago.
So so just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So just before the rise of VP that no one had really ever heard of.
Exactly. And then just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Right. Fabulous. So where was the right place?
So it's actually one of the first big pop-ups in the UK at Didcot. They built a big wall. They were there for sort of 6 weeks or so doing all sorts of testing and bits and pieces.
Right.
And it was just one of the sort of test films that I was there to do all the BTS and the interviews on. And then from that sort of made some contacts with people. And then 6 months later out the blue, Garden started and they went, hey, you've got a little bit of experience in VP, you know some camera stuff. How do you feel like coming and sort of joining?
It does seem to be, and I guess that's an ongoing theme, I think, and I think that's probably what's always happened in the film world anyway, is that it's being in the right place at the right time, for sure. Ben was on last week, and he said exactly the same thing. He just sort of seemed to be in the right place at the right time.
All just those happy coincidences.
Happy coincidences, sort of that's. We can talk about maybe your thoughts on the how people can break into the industry a bit later on. So you went to Garden. So tell us a bit about Garden. So I've been there a few times. Tell us a bit of history about Garden if you know it.
Yeah, sure. We started in sort of January 21 with our first stages coming online in March of 21.
Right.
VP was, funnily enough, actually the first stage that was operational. So it's sort of grown from there, sort of slowly expanding. So now we're up to about 9 sound stages, I think, some workshops, mixed space, but the VP stage along with that has also sort of grown and grown.
So Garden wasn't about before, really, too much before the pandemic?
No, so all started then. The sort of founder of it is a guy called Thomas Hogue, who did all sorts of stuff. He was involved in Love Film before it became Prime Video. He did Met Film School, a few other
Right.
brilliant brain of a guy where he's just that sort of mix of super, super creative, but also has got that great sort of business side.
Right.
Really fun guy for a chat. He was telling us about he creative directed one of the Olympics in the 90s or something. He's done all sorts of crazy stuff, but also understands business pretty well, it seems.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, because that's quite that's intriguing. Into it takes, I guess, quite a lot of belief starting up as a film stage.
Yeah, and especially the timing as well to do
Right.
that, and then sort of a year later go into the COVID pandemic. It's
Right. Yeah.
hell of a time.
Right. And it's not so. It's over. If I remember right, it's like over quite a large space. In whereabouts is it based again?
So we're Park Royal, so sort of it's a lovely little creative hub. We're just around the corner from sort of super hire, tons of prop houses,
Right.
machine shop, the special effects company. So we're sort of nestled in the middle of all the rental houses, which is quite nice. But then we've been slowly sort of expanding and sort of growing around in that area.
Pushing them out.
Panelux,
when they become vacant.
yeah, Panelux moved,
Right.
and we sort of jumped on that opportunity.
Right.
But
So,
yeah.
And how many stages you got there?
So we're up to 9 sound stages now, and then the one permanent
Okay.
VP stage.
Right.
But then we also, because we've got the sound stages, we quite often do bigger pop-ups in those sound stages.
Got you. So just popping up VP stages within the stages.
Exactly. We've sort of found our VP stage is about as big as you can get a permanent stage, and sort of keep it small enough that it's still affordable for indies and smaller jobs. Big enough that you can do decent dramas and come in and do driving work and sort of bigger ads. But then what we found is that anyone who wants bigger than that, everyone wants something completely different. So you're having to rebuild it anywhere, and that's where most of the cost of the sort of LED wall VP is in that build and the strike.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're spending all the labour, all the time. So by keeping that sort of standing stage, that's a lot more affordable. And then whenever we want bigger, we can build completely bespoke, bring in whatever LED product works for that.
Yeah, it seems to be this sort of a bit of a move towards making them smaller to be more modular. And then if someone wants something a lot bigger, it's there, right?
We've definitely seen it as well with things like the V stage, for example, where they had that massive volume standing. And then you've got films like the latest Ant-Man, where you've built this huge stage and suddenly everything's sort of got to be shot on it because you've got to justify having the stage.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's the completely wrong way to approach VP. It's a tool. It shouldn't be the whole production. So sort of picking maybe the 10, 15% of a production that will actually work on VP and using it for the stuff that it's going to sort of elevate that production, rather than sort of manipulating your production to work on this sort of niche technology.
Yeah, and I guess things like a lot of shots are close-ups, mids anyway, right? And they can sort of be reactionary, and it's a great tool for sort of callbacks and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Like at the end of the day, if you've got all the money in the world, you're going to go on location, you're going to do all these things. But if you don't have all the money in the world, which is most productions, it can be a great tool for things like that. And even hand in hand with location shooting, we've done some projects where they've shot hybrid and done all of their sort of wides and all the sort of shots that you'd struggle to do in VP, or you'd struggle to get that much production value.
Yeah.
And then come in for all the sort of drama and all the stuff that the director wants multiple takes on. They want to spend time finessing, and come and do that in VP where it's safe. You've got your lighting, your weather locked, and you can just do resets and things like that.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. And what's the sort of main? So you obviously shoot film, drama, advertising.
Yeah, so we started off quite heavily in advertising at the start, and then we've kept that up, but we're certainly, as we've grown bigger with the sound stages, we're servicing a lot more sort of high-end TV drama clients, and so a lot of our work, chatting to other stages as well, it seems like a lot of it's going towards more of the sort of driving process work.
Right.
It's the easiest thing to dip your feet into VP, because you're in that separate little bubble of the car. Selling it's a little bit easier, and it's way easier than sort of process trailer work.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Sticking cars on trailers, all the insurance.
Yeah, and the travel days as well. If you've got your lead talent for a week, then spending half that week ferrying them off to Scotland and then here and there, as opposed to, oh no, we'll just flip the plate and suddenly we're here.
Yeah. Right.
Send off a second unit a few weeks later to go and do all the wides with the stand-in.
Right.
But you can get a lot more shooting time if you've got sort of A-list talent or things like that.
Do you think it's is the blocker and that kind of stuff just experience? Do you think in the people who make those decisions and the time that they are able to make those decisions? And what I mean by that in the sort of the production sort of, I guess, timeline.
In terms of sort of choosing VP?
Yeah, I guess so, or optimizing it.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a bit of that over the last couple of years, where we've had sort of some productions come in very, very late, some of them sort of a lot earlier. What's really nice is we've got sort of writers and directors coming to us really, really early on.
Right.
Potentially some of them that worked with us before and going, right, here's my next project. I think some of this could work on VP.
Brilliant.
And so they're approaching it even to the degree that it's like, oh, well, if I tweak that scene, let's rewrite that a little bit, and then I sort of get more production value out of it, and it's a little tweak that makes it easier to film on VP.
Right.
And so they're sort of writing scripts with it in mind in a way.
Right. And I think, yeah, I remember having a conversation with Gavin Saville. Blimey, must be 2 or 3 years ago at least. And I thought we both thought at that time, actually getting exposure to script writers to understand what the art of the possible was.
Yep.
You know, based on, you know, otherwise they'll pre sanity check where their script can go, because they'll you know, if they know the sort of the budget, they know they're not going to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they're not going to go. They don't do a sci-fi because that's the way. So it's brilliant that actually that's happening as well. That's brilliant. Okay, so advertising. So do you think what's the difference? The main difference between filming, I guess, something to do with advertising versus something to do with like a film or a drama?
There's definitely a bit of a sort of split in terms of how real is real. With adverts, you sort of, if it's a 3-second shot, you can live with slightly less finesse content.
Right.
Whereas drama, they're a lot more on it in terms of this has to be perfect. And so we've seen a lot of a sort of push more towards photoreal content, and so sort of slightly moving away from 3D Unreal and more into sort of shot video plates and more sort of photographic content.
Right. Got you.
Not to say Unreal still gets used a fair bit and it's good for sort of certain approaches, but a lot more of the sort of drama side is using either shot plates from location for pickups and things like that.
Yep.
Or sort of a combination where you're using some sort of shot assets in combination with a little bit of 3D for the foreground.
Got you. Yeah, and you know, as long as I guess the director's happy about not having too much camera movement, because you can still put a bit of camera movement with a static plate. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all depends on how far things are away. If you're looking at mountains that are 10 miles away, you could do a 20-foot dolly track and you never know.
Yeah.
But if you're looking down a corridor, you're going to have to line pretty bang on.
You can sort of go, you can go backwards and forwards, right, and track in and track out, and that's
exactly
it, right. Even that can be a bit dodgy. And of course, you can really lean into, I guess, the creativity within advertising. So if you wanted if the creative is a field full of bubblegum trees kind of thing,
exactly,
it's like,
you can do anything.
Really easy.
And sort of music videos take that to another level again, where you can really get funky, more abstract and things.
Yeah.
We've done sort of shoots where, to be frank, they're just using the LED wall as a lighting source essentially.
Right.
And we had a job where the director essentially lit it all himself by just creating a timeline in Premiere, doing block colors and syncing it to the music track, and then just playing that back as a video.
Got you.
So it's sort of empowering in a way to give directors that level of it. But then we've also done music videos set on Mars and things like that, where you can have asteroids hitting on the beat and things like that. Right. And all sorts of fun, cued things.
Yeah, because you can complicate it in engineering. I think that's possibly one of the challenges at early doors was it got over-engineered.
People put the tech before the story.
Right.
And I think that definitely, especially when it was a cool new thing, everyone's go, oh, my next project's going to be on VP, rather than, okay, does it actually work for this? Right. Is it going to help, or is it just a cool new toy to play with?
And that's natural with any sort of tech. I think, you know, new thing comes out, everyone wants to use a bit like AI. You know, apps was saying even websites being built. It's like everyone had to have a website. And it's like, do you need a website? Yeah, I need a website. Yeah. Oh, okay, let's build your website. You didn't need one, did you? No, kind of thing. Which is good, because I think that also gets people's over that hump of the challenges of what the technology does as well. So it's sort of needed.
Exactly. We've seen some great VP examples. We've seen some sort of dodgy ones, and I think we're now getting to the point where people are starting to understand what works and what doesn't, even without sort of having to sort of chat to a VP team. Definitely seeing that sort of industry knowledge grow a bit more, where you've got sort of DPs and directors who come in and understand it a little bit more, not just on the technical side, but also on just sort of the use case and sort of why might VP be a good solution for this.
Got you. And that's critical. Do you think there's a big gap still there, or the conversations you have? I mean,
Yeah, definitely. From talking to sort of industry bodies, we do a lot of sort of training with people like Production Guild of Great Britain and things like
right,
that, and sort of trying to upskill their members, ideally as early on as possible. So things like writers and directors, getting them to have that little bit of knowledge, so that when they're starting to look at a production, they can sort of either write with it in mind, or sort
right.
of, okay, let's maybe schedule a little bit of VP and we'll do all our driving work and we'll do a few pickups and we'll schedule a little bit of redundancy there to sort of mop up coverage towards the end of production.
Do you get a feeling for what is the driver for why they? Because you sort of touched on a couple of points. It's the new next shiny thing. Then there's sort of efficiency, because you don't have to go to Scotland to for the pick shot, the shots and stuff like that. There's the post production. Oh my God, we forgot to do this shot. Let's get talent back.
Yeah.
There's that sort of
I think, yeah,
safety net.
cost is definitely the main motivator. Like VP on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be more expensive than a location shoot. But in general, you shoot less days in VP because you can get a lot more done, and that's where you tend to make your savings.
Right.
Especially, as you said, if you've got sort of big talent or things like that, where you've got a limited time, you can spend a lot more of that time shooting as opposed to sort of traveling to sets, waiting for things to be set. And you can sort of preload a lot of that work in terms of, if you're doing multiple scenes, make all your changes on the pre-light day, get all your lighting looks set, and then we're changing scenes in 3 minutes, pull up a new DMX preset and you're relit for a new scene, as opposed to, well, actually, we're going to have to strike this set and come back in 3 weeks and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Once you get that workflow, it can be incredibly efficient to be able to do that as well, right? And do you have you seen? Actually, I lost my thread. It's one of these things when you interview people. It's like you're trying to concentrate on someone, and then you go, oh, "What's my next question going to be?"
Line up next,
and you go, "Oh, this is the next one." And then you say something really interesting, and then that completely gone. Oh yeah, so you do training at Garden, right? Yeah, so you sort of try and do that. I know you have quite a few events as well up there, right?
Yeah, we're quite big on the VP events in terms of sort of, again, trying to grow that industry knowledge.
Right.
More on the sort of producer side in terms of, because ultimately they're the sort of decision makers, but also I do a lot of work with sort of DPs, gaffers, things like that, and trying to sort of skill the technical knowledge and do that sort of push that forefront of R&D.
Yeah. And what about, I remember what my question was now. It was really around, is there a sweet spot? Have you recognised sort of a sweet spot of, it sort of makes sense when you do it over this amount of days, and it's this type of shot, and you're trying to get this kind of in the
So what I tell producers when they come in, driving scenes are a definite, because it's easier and you'll get more done.
Yeah.
That's the easy one. Then it's things where sort of small scenes. So again, in a drive, if you've got little pickups here or there, or little scenes where it doesn't make sense to do a big set build for it, that can save you some money. If it's a little sort of maybe only 1/8 of a page for a scene here or there, or sort of montages, things like that. Anything where there's that big time cost to sort of location moves or things like that. And then anything where it's sort of either expensive to do or sort of harder to do on location. So things like if you want to shoot Piccadilly Circus and you're a small drama, you're never going to have the budget to lock that off.
Right.
VP can let you get some shots and things like that. Or if you've got sort of things in the middle of the desert or beaches or things like that, anything where logistically it's quite difficult, whether that be from a sort of production logistics of physically getting there or from a sort of lighting perspective as well. I mean, we sort of forget about it now, but all the sort of benefits of being able to lock your lighting and have 10 hours of golden hour or twilight or whatnot.
Yeah. Do you think because one of the draws of filmmaking, right, was travel and all this, and the whole and I was talking to people about this sort of the creative process, and VP in sort of however you sort of whatever flavor it is a very technical engineering led thing.
Yeah.
It's like if you asked engineers to invent filmmaking. That's exactly what they would
Yeah.
have. Because actually, that's what they were asked to do in the
Mm.
pandemic. It's like, we've got to still do filmmaking.
Yeah, find a solution.
Find the solution, engineers, and they sort of found one. What's your experience with producers and directors, creatives, even script writers, DOPs, etc., when they've been hesitant, I guess, or they've been sort of pushed back against using this tech?
Yeah, I think the lack of understanding is a big driver there, especially for sort of DPs and the more technical side, because no one wants to be on set with a tool that they don't understand.
Yeah,
And so a lot of my work is that sort of almost hand-holding in the early stages of production, sort of getting the DPs in for a day to sort of get them the gaffer in, give them a chance to play so they understand the tool,
right.
so they're not scared of it, so that they can be comfortable and therefore enjoy their experience in VP. Because we're all about people, we want people to enjoy their experience there, get a good result,
Yeah,
so
totally.
so that the sort of technology grows.
And is that, I guess that's just fear of the unknown, right? I mean, an experience.
Exactly. You've got a DP who spent their whole life sort of knowing as much as they can about everything they're doing. They're the expert on set, and suddenly they're thrown in at the deep end with something that they've never used before,
Right.
but are still expected to know everything and make their days. So
Right.
definitely having that fear of, oh, well, actually, how long's that going to take? Things like that. Nobody wants to be stepping on set. The AD, for example, if we're saying, oh, well, actually, if we make that tweak there, it's going to take this amount of time. They need to have that sort of inherent knowledge of how long certain things take.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's all about sort of getting that pre-production in early so that we can be chatting to HODs, giving them that understanding of it, but also holding their hand the whole way through.
Yeah, and it is as you probably experienced. I mean, it's a wonderful thing when it all works, and everyone it is a gleeful. It's sort of a really actually quite. I found it quite stress-free kind of environment.
When you've got a lovely crew to work with. We had a job in yesterday as an advert where, again, they've been chatting to us for a month or two, so they were all very well sort of clued up on it. The DP had been down a few times to look at the content and sort of do a digital pre-light, and sort of everyone had a really good understanding of, okay, and now we're going on to this shot here,
Right.
and then we're going to go here, and then how can we optimize that shoot day as well in terms of setups and sort of minimizing physical art department changes as much as possible, because the lighting and the VP we can change like that.
Yeah.
But moving props and things, that's what takes the time. And it was a really good result. Everyone went away buzzing at the end of the day.
Brilliant. It is quite ironic's maybe not the right word, but sometimes you can be set. VP can be set way in advance of hair, makeup.
Yep.
Our department, they're sort of still. Oh, are you ready for us?
Yeah,
we're ready.
We always like to say that we're the first department ready, because I mean, at the end of the day, we click a button and it changes most of the time. There's things that do take a little bit more time, things like sort of changing frame rates and things like that.
Right.
And there's always a few sort of, oh, actually, can we do bits and pieces like this? But it's nice to have that flexibility. The more sort of that you pre-game all those changes and things like that, it gives you that room.
Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, sometimes I tell people there's sort of two ways to approach VP. You've got the sort of producer's VP where you plan it all out and you maximize your day and shoot. And then you've got your director's VP where you leave a little bit more breathing room. And because you've made those changes and locked it down mostly, you can then come in and make tweaks and changes and things. We had a job at the start of the year where they were shooting in a helicopter, brought in a physical helicopter, and sort of during the course of the day, they were going, oh, I've got this VFX shot and we're going to have to comp the rotor blades on. It's going to be really difficult. And like, I don't know if that shot's going to work. We might have to cut it. And we just went, well, let's just build sort of a rotor blade, just 4 black rectangles in Unreal, and spin it round. And then in camera, you're getting that sort of in the corner frame, but also the reflections down the fuselage.
Right.
Little things like that where the build time, it's maybe 5-10 minutes to just drop that in. That sort of problem solving that goes hand in hand is really, really nice.
Yeah, having that sort of the flexibility and I think that really when you sort of understand the tool, certainly from a director's point of view, when they can be trying to ask lots of questions that they're getting sort of no's to, can be really challenging for them. But it's great when you can also, they've assumed, but that's gonna take months worth of.
It's really nice having that surprise. Oh, we're ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's that quick. I think no one likes saying no to a director on set and managing that relationship of, okay, what's going to take more time? What is doable? And sort of juggling. And again, being on set, it's all about those relationships and that sort of interperson politics.
Right.
I think especially in the early days as well, where VP is that sort of new department coming onto set, finding out where we fit in that on-set hierarchy, especially crew to crew. Sometimes we're sort of working almost as a desk op under the gaffer. Sometimes we're up there with the DP and the director. And sometimes it's all through a different chain altogether, feeling out how each crew wants to work, because there's no sort of, cool, VP is here and it follows this hierarchy. Feeling out that relationship has been really interesting, going from different crews.
Where does it work best?
For us, I quite like being in with the sort of DP and the director,
Right.
especially if they don't have that much knowledge, so that you can head off sort of requests early. So if they're asking for something, let's not wait for it to filter down through the whole pipeline. The AD will come and say, oh, can we do this?
Right.
Let's just keep an ear on that conversation. And if they're suggesting something, I can red flag it early on. Okay, that's going to take a little bit of time, but can we do this? Would this work for you?
Yeah.
Here's another option that might get you sort of that coverage or that shot, but it might be a little bit better for the time, or it might give you a slightly better creative output.
And do you feel that you sort of have to having to use the language and the appropriate language, because it is a very technical system kind of thing, and you can fall into using a lexicon of phrases that no one understands in the entire universe.
I think there's definitely been a bit of that, especially again in the early days, figuring out how to integrate with those on-set teams. Things like color, who's managing color, things like the ceiling, where it's both a light source, but then you're also managing color on it. So we've done a lot of work sort of trying to integrate with companies and tools so that crews aren't having to learn a whole new paradigm to come and work in VP. They can just work as they normally do. So things like giving the DIT color control of the wall so they can walk in and color grade it.
Right.
We've had DPs come in who've never done VP before, but because it's that same lift gamma gain tool set on 3 trackables, they can come in and dial in the exact sort of exposure and color on the wall with no experience of VP. It's all about trying to sort of hand control back to the traditional crews, so that they don't have to learn a whole new way of working. We're sort of facilitating them.
Yeah, there was another question I was going to ask you, but I got lost in what you were telling me now. Cool. So you've been up to some cool stuff at Garden, though, haven't you?
Yeah, we've had a busy couple of years. It's been quite nice where we've done, especially starting off in a lot of ads. It's a lot of sort of smaller jobs, rather than pulling the same scene up for sort of 3 weeks on a big feature.
Right. Okay.
So it means that we've got to work with different DPs and directors and cameras and lenses and basically know what works and what doesn't.
Right.
But also take all sorts of different creative approaches to problem solving. So if they want to do something on set, there's probably a job in our back catalogue where we've done something similar and we can sort of leverage that to help problem solve.
Got you. So one of the reasons why I asked you sort of to come in, because you did a stunt thing as well. I don't know if you've got that. Our trusted producer, marketing manager, is going to pull it up as well. So tell us a little bit about, because you and it's for all the right reasons that you set these things up, because seeing is believing, right? And I think that's one of the key things. It's a bit like this podcast studio, is that you trying to explain what on earth is going on in this podcast studio without someone seeing it. As soon as they walk through the door, they see that monitor, they go, "Oh, I get that now. Oh, that's quite cool." Trying to talk to them, it's like, and it's the same thing, right? So setting up. So you'd sort of do, and correct me if I'm wrong, you sort of do these sort of showcases now and again, once every 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And some of them quite complex and some of them quite easy, but it's really about trying to get people in and going.
It's like trying to push the boundaries a bit, try something that hasn't been done before, but also, get people in to see the stage with more of a production setup.
Yeah.
And sort of, there's a little bit of that sort of showbiz, let's wow them a little bit. But also just give them, okay, we don't have a full crew here today, but imagine if you were doing this as a full crew. So this train fight, for example, we basically shot for 8 hours on it.
Right.
Now, if you were covering that as a full-on fight sequence on a drama, you'd probably spend a couple of weeks covering that.
Right.
So it's not as polished as it would be if it's a full production, but hopefully it gives an indication of the sort of thing that you could achieve if you were doing it with a full-scale budget.
So there's sort of the art of the possible kind of thing.
Exactly, sort of expanding people's horizons of what VP could be used for.
Right. And so talk us a little bit through it. Now, I've got to have eyes in the back of my head, because you're going to talk a little bit to the video, which we'll sort of cut in later on anyway.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about it. How long did it take to do? Whose idea was it?
Yeah, sure.
How do you get it? How do you get it all in? Did you get a train carriage in?
So we built one, funnily enough. So we basically, roughly every year or so we do a big VP demo, and it's always just the VP team at Garden. So there's about 5 of us.
Right.
So we do everything on it: the art department, the lighting, everything ourselves. And so we wanted to do a fight scene because we'd done a job that was with one. We wanted to get a little bit creative on it. And I've got some friends who are stunt guys, so sort of wrapped them into it.
Yeah. What are you doing next Thursday?
Yeah, exactly. And then our original idea was to do a sort of fight in a sort of lift basket being lifted up a skyscraper.
Oh, got you.
Because we'd all just seen the Batman and loved the horizon shots in that.
Got you.
And I wanted to recreate that.
I could see that.
And we did a little bit of work in that, and ultimately it was all sort of bringing everything a little bit smaller rather than bringing it bigger. So we moved away from that and went, right, we want to stay with a fight scene, but let's make it a little bit bigger and sort of up the stakes a little bit. So we were looking around different ideas and thought, right, let's do a fight on the top of a train, because again, logistically that's going to be really hard to do physically. But also it's the sort of thing that no one would dream of doing that unless you've got a really, really big budget. And so if we can give a few indies the idea that actually you could attempt something sort of above your budget, that's a really nice thing for us.
I was going to say, because I mean, the two I can remember, and there are lots of fight scenes on trains, right? But one of the James Bonds, the recent James Bond ones, when he gets shot at the top, that must have been, I mean, telephone numbers of budget and the time it took to shoot that, right?
Yeah. Even sort of other fights, we've done sort of some stunt driving scenes where we're one of like 4 or 5 different units covering it, where we're just doing the VP with the principal talent, and then they've got stunt drivers, they've got a drone unit, they've got this and that. So the idea of covering this with 2 cameras and a crew of about maybe 10 of us, it was ambitious.
But you did it as well, though.
Yeah. So we only had about sort of a week or so to do it. So, and again, minimal budget to get it done, where it was just a marketing piece. So it was things like we were taking like old like corrugated steel fencing and using that for the train carriage to build it.
Oh, no, right.
And sort of manipulating that to build. We essentially built 2 carriages, a sort of a container and then a sort of sand cart, so there was a little bit of peril of them jumping between the 2 carts.
Got you.
Built that at a height of about 2 foot or so, and then they built sort of a digital double of the train and put the sort of stage config, the end display config, on the train and moved that through the scene.
Right.
To sort of give you that impression.
And what was the results? What were the results like?
Yeah, for the most part, happy. I mean, I'm always going to want to spend a bit longer, a bit more time tweaking lighting. You never finish; you just have to stop. But I think it shows what you could do if you had slightly more time and slightly more budget. The really nice thing on this is we developed a sort of lighting system for it. So a sort of moving hard source light. We used it on a driving job just before this, where basically if you rig an array of hard source Fresnels or something like that around the back of the stage, and then link them up over DMX and link them into either Unreal or another sort of desk software, and then basically track where the sun is in either video plate if it's driving or Unreal, and then use that vector to then feed into a sort of pixel mapping rig, so that you've got basically the sun moving across that array of lights depending on the angle relative to the stage. But then also overlaid with the pixel mapping, and that's what gets rid of the multi-sourcing and the sort of jumping around, is the sort of flicker of trees and ridge lines.
Yeah, got you.
Because as soon as you've got that, it's sort of a flickering light, but it's moving around.
It's dappling, the dappling. Yeah, very, very cool. So it's sort of an R&D kind of thing to get out of it as well,
Yeah,
right?
we always look to sort of wrap in some of the things that we've been working on into these, so that we can sort of, again, test it, but also have a showcase so that people go, oh, I want to do hard light. I don't really want my driving plates to be overcast. Actually, here's a solution that could work for it.
Yeah, and that's really important, right? Because I think one of the big challenges with any big virtual production stage is the team within it only know what they can know. So having an R&D aspect to pushing the boundaries, so you actually go, oh, actually that's, if anyone comes to ask us now, that's really hard. We know how to do it, but it's super hard.
And people are visual as well. You can say, oh, yeah, we've done these technical tests and it'll work. But if you can actually show them something and go, well, this is the visual output that I can give you.
100%.
It's a lot more easier for directors to digest.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what they get as well, right? We talked about Unreal and other things as well. So you've got things like the Chaos Arena and the Nuke stage,
Yeah.
if that's like that. Have you played around with those at all?
We're doing some early testing.
Right,
Ultimately, I don't think they're quite ready for prime time yet. They're
right,
missing things like sort of sequencer and DMX integration, all of the
right,
sort of things that Unreal has had time to mature into.
right,
I think they get you a good image on the wall, but it's that sort of on-set usability of, well, actually, we want to make a change here. We want to keyframe this.
right,
We want to link in and queue things outside of the engine. They work great as sort of digital translites, but I don't think they've got the same interaction that you've got in Unreal. It's one of the reasons that we love Unreal is that ability to just solve problems in it.
Yeah, and I guess it's all they're different tools, right? So they are very much VFX heavy tools. So if you've got a very heavy visual effects production, then it sort of can make sense because you're not having to go from one to another kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
If you're treating it as more of a, okay, how can we solve this one shot? We'll set up, shoot that, and then move on,
Yeah,
as opposed to, I like much more of a treat VP as more of a backdrop, and then they can shoot within that. It just gives, rather than the DP being beholden to the VFX requirements, it
right,
gives them the ability to shoot, and we're just sort of extending the background, being able to tweak
right.
lighting and things.
Yeah, so bit to your point, you can music videos, you can just put a roll of video and it can have an impact as well. And it sort of depends on what you're filming as
Yeah,
well, right?
it's all about serving the story rather than sort of, it's got to be story and creative driven rather than the tech dictating what you can do with the story.
Yeah, for sure. What other? So I actually, just before I say that, so you've done, so you do it about once a year, and you
Yeah.
did when did you do the train? Was that about a
Train
year ago?
was, last November or
Last
so.
November. So you got one in planning at the moment.
We're thinking about early ideas for what we
Oh,
could do this year.
interesting.
We've done a train, we've done cars, I think maybe a plane.
Oh, it's got to be something cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something. Vehicles are nice.
So yeah, cool. Okay, so later on this year,
Hopefully, yeah.
hopefully you'll sell tickets.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a really interesting thing because you got R&D out of it, and you obviously do it educational wise, but it's a biz dev thing as well, right? You're trying to also promote the studio and promote
Exactly. Ultimately, if you get people in the door and get them more experience to the tech, might not be this project, it might be a project in 2 years'
Right.
time, but it's all growing that industry knowledge so that not just Garden as a stage grows, but also
Right.
the VP as an industry and sort of people recognise it as a valuable tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to hear that because that's always been my view as well. It's like if everyone promotes it, even if
Yes.
for that particular shoot
Yeah.
you're not the right person,
Exactly.
it goes somewhere else. It doesn't matter because it grows the industry, it grows the sector kind of thing as well.
Exactly. And we've had jobs where, okay, maybe we're not the right stage for it, but we've had people who've got a great relationship with our team and they'll actually take our sort of team of operators and to another stage because, okay, maybe they don't have the budget for a pop-up on this and they need a slightly different stage
Right.
configuration, but they really like working with us and the sort of support in prep.
Right.
So they'll take us and go and sort of transplant us into another stage to
Oh,
operate.
that's pretty awesome as well.
It's lovely having those relationships and having, especially we've got clients now who are on their 4th year coming back with us.
Right.
And seeing that sort of return and also just their knowledge level going from, okay, we need maybe 2 months of prep and hand-holding to a week before, right, here's our content, we'll be in next week.
Right.
Seeing that growth of their knowledge, even to the degree where they're now doing training for other people.
That's really great. And so maturity wise, how do you you've obviously been doing it since the early days, which is like 5 years ago, which is still sort of measurable in sort of in months as well. Have you seen the uptake improving? Because you sort of
Yeah, I think we're definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think it's all about picking what works for VP rather than sort of just jumping on the bandwagon. I think driving is here to stay.
Yeah.
That's going to work. I think 3D, it's workable, but it's still not quite to the quality that I want it to be at. Looking at things like the Unreal renders that you can do in near real time, it's just a matter of waiting for the processing power to catch up. Once we get to the quality of those sort of renders where you're taking maybe a second a frame, if that can come down, then you're stopping having to juggle that performance versus sort of visual quality.
Yeah, and that inevitably will come because I I've come from big tech and stuff like that, and I remember, double clicking on one of the first installs of Photoshop in the 90s, and then going off for a cup of tea, coming back, and it's still sort of booting up. But that processor speed's going to get better. That all these things.
Exactly.
And if you're waiting 10 seconds for Photoshop to kick up these days, it's like, oh god.
And even just the quality looking at from sort of 426, wherever we started, 425, to Unreal 5 now.
Right.
The scale of the scenes is a lot bigger, but also the speed of building scenes. So Liam, our lead technical artist, he does a lot of work procedurally. So he'll sort of
Right.
create a rule set that'll make, so for example, we just built a sort of snowy London street.
Right.
And so instead of having to place individual houses, he can create a rule set that does that. And then it means that he can iterate a lot quicker. So again, it's bringing down that sort of time and therefore cost,
Right.
and making it a lot more accessible as well.
Yeah. And I guess there's a load of other ways that you can sort of hide some of the drawbacks of using Unreal as well. So darker scenes, all those kind of things work a lot better.
A bit more physical art department. We've had some jobs where we've had super minimal art department. I remember one of the first jobs I shot at Garden was it was a sort of bar scene, and we just had a guy sat with his knees facing the wall as though he was sat at the bar, and just forced perspective on that. And then another guy on sort of the long end of the bar, and we just had a maybe 4 foot long table, lined it up so it just obscured it, a couple of bottles to hide the seam, and it looked like he was sat at a 20-meter bar, and then just a few pools of light. Here we go.
You got it out.
And that was the sort of, actually, you can get quite funky with this.
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's like the understanding the craft of it, I think, is one of the really interesting. Once you get beyond all of these, the technical stuff.
That shot there.
Oh, yeah.
So super minimal set dressing, but just having that little bit of movement in the back. We've seen it now as well with sort of metahumans coming on, being a bit more ready for prime time.
Right.
Just adding some more life to the scene so it doesn't just look
dead. We had, I interviewed a guy from, I'm going to get that one, it's not Distortion, Dimension Studios, who did some metahuman live controlled with mocap suits on an LED wall. And they're really, really far in the distance. And they just worked because it's like they're out of focus, depth of field is there, but you can see them waving kind of thing. And it's like, it's all that thing about, closer you get to the camera, more you want it in focus, all these things. That's where it gets more challenging.
Compared to 2 years ago where you can have one bald guy facing the other way. Now it's getting slightly better.
Yeah, and it will get better, especially I think as to your point, as people start to really understand what the tool can do and what it can't do, is that then the creativity can really lean into those kinds of things as well.
Exactly. I think that's another really nice thing about where we've got the sound stages as well, is that when we're looking at a project, I'm not sort of forced to go, okay, this has got to be on VP because everything's VP. I can go, well, actually, no, for this project, VP doesn't make sense. Let's either do it in a soundstage or go on location and come and use our backlot. There's not sort of that every problem has to be a VP problem. That's really nice to be able to actually say no to productions. Yeah. Because then they're going to have a better outcome.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got that sort of, if you've got the other options as well in-house as well, it's always a bit scary if all you do is have a VP stage.
And then, say no to
say,
yeah, exactly. That, right? It's nice having that, and then they sort of trust it a bit more as well, because you're not just financially motivated; you genuinely have their best interests at heart.
No, absolutely. What's next for Garden? What's going on with Garden at the moment? Anything interesting, cool stuff going on?
We've got a few big shows in at the moment. VP-wise, we've got a mix of sort of, again, lots of driving over the summer. We've just come out of a really busy month of sort of back-to-back driving jobs and a few ads here and there. Our wall's grown a little bit more, so we've come up to, we're now a 24 by 5 meter wall.
Right. Is it just a case of literally locking on a few more, or do you have to?
Essentially, yeah. So we've got a fair few panels in storage, which either sometimes they go out as a smaller wall for more indie jobs.
Right.
So we can do like a 7 by 3 meter wall. We've got a even smaller sort of 4 by 2 meter wall that quite often goes out for tabletop sort of food and beverage work.
Right.
And that pairs quite nicely. We've got a little techno crane as well, so that's great for that.
Nice.
But yeah, otherwise it's a sort of click it up.
Stick 'em on, see what happens.
Exactly. And again, it's all just that little in-house team. So Mara, who's normally operating Unreal, will then jump off and she'll be an LED rigger for the day. And then it's a really nice little team.
Yeah, that's cool. So you haven't got any events or anything that coming up?
No dates confirmed yet, but hopefully something before the end of the year.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Anything else going on? He says, looking at the marketing. Oh, we've got some.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, go on.
yeah. I'm still coming out of this week of shooting, trying to catch up.
That's all right. What was that? So what was that?
So it's another sort of set of training for. Is this the writers and producers one? Yeah, yeah. So again, sort of getting a group of writers and producers in for a day, giving them that sort of exposure to VP,
Right.
a little bit of problem solving, not just on the sort of technical onset side, but also approaching it from a sort of scheduling and sort of line producing side of, okay, actually, how do I budget for VP jobs? How do I schedule it? That sort
Right.
of side.
Is it formal? Is it sort of formal training, or is it like everyone just comes in and then stands around and you sort of touch on some?
It's sort of somewhere in between.
Got
So it's a laid back environment, but there's definitely a bit of a structure to it.
Right. Okay.
So we give them sort of a basic sort of VP demo, get them up to speed with, okay, here's the base tenets of, here's the wall, here's camera tracking, this is what happens for this,
Right.
here's what driving looks like. And then start to break down a few case studies of sort of jobs we've done in the past. Why did they choose VP for this? Why did this job not choose VP for
Right.
it? And sort of that understanding of
Right. Cool.
why that tech works.
Cool. And when is that? Do we know when that is?
September.
24th. 24th. And you sign up where? Where do you sign up? Oh, say it again. So the Production Guild of Great Britain is exclusive to them. So if anyone wants to go, you have to sign up to the guild before you're allowed in.
But yeah, if people want to come down and sort of get that exposure to VP, we run demos all the time.
Well, right.
Sort of, again, things like DPs getting it down for a coffee and a morning of playing around with lenses and things like that.
Right.
And just sort of getting that exposure to it, getting that time on the stage to understand what works, what doesn't, and just sort of building confidence, really.
Oh, what is it? And if someone wants to follow Garden Studios on the socials?
Sure. So we're Garden Studios HQ on most platforms.
Great.
And we post all sorts of BTS and bits and pieces on there.
On that as well. Cool. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, thanks for
It's
having
been
me.
an absolute pleasure coming in.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Perfect.
It'll be one of many, I'm sure. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Perfect.